Alright, welcome to Loved It, Hated It Media Reviews. Episode 3. Tonight we are talking Star Wars The Force Awakens. Spoilers galore in this one.
Spoiler alert.
It's been a month and a half. If you haven't seen it yet, you probably don't care.
That's
But
probably true.
yeah.
Initial thoughts? It is better than the prequels. It's my initial thought.
Ben hates it.
Tim?
What a surprise.
Of course.
I loved it. It was a really great movie. There's a couple problems that I'll address when we get into it, but overall I thought it was really good.
I agree. I liked it all around. I thought it was really well done. It was better than what I expected. I'll say that.
Alright. So, it opens with what is my favorite scene in the whole movie.
The text crawl.
Which, not the text scroll. Okay, it does open with that.
It does open with
Never
that.
mind. After the text scroll. My favorite scene in that whole movie is when the First Order comes and lights up a whole city.
That wasn't the
And
first
the
scene.
stormtroopers
that is
actually
pretty cool.
hit stuff.
That wasn't
Finally.
that wasn't the first scene. The first scene
Okay,
was
not the first scene.
first-
Past the storm crawl and all the stupid
we
stuff
get Poe
before that.
Dameron getting...
Oh, we do here.
We have him talking to the old guy about the map, and then he gives it to BB-8, and then they attack.
Yeah. But it's kind of the first, main...
It's the first main
I guess.
battle.
Main event.
thing.
Yeah.
The first main event.
That's the best part of the movie. Is a bunch of stormtroopers leveling a city.
And then Ben says it went all downhill from there.
It does. That is where it goes downhill from.
See, that was a good scene to me because you get to see Kylo Ren's introduction, who's got a really cool looking suit type of thing. The mask is really cool, and then Poe Dameron's trying to get away, and he's tries to shoot a blaster towards the stormtroopers, and just Kylo Ren stops it midair, and that was the best we've seen of the Force, kind of stopping something, using the Force to actually stop a projectile in midair. That was probably one of the best scenes to me, visually in the movie. And it was right in the beginning, so I thought they hit it off good.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that part. Stopping the beam.
Yeah, I like when he stops the beam. That was pretty cool. And I like the way Kylo Ren looks with his whole suit on.
Yeah.
He does look like a pretty cool bad guy.
Yeah.
So it started out well. But
The only thing I could have thought they should have done a little better was try to have that blaster, used to intimidate Poe more, because they kind of just kept it there. They could.
Oh, yeah.
I think what would have been cool is if they kind of took it and kind of Ren used the Force to kind of put it up against his throat or something,
Yeah.
kind of give it a cool look of I'm going to stab you with this if you don't give me my information, instead of just leaving it there. That was kind of the only issue I had, is they could have done more with it.
Yeah. That's actually what I thought they were going to do. When it first froze, I was like, okay, now they're going to, push him up toward it and be like, tell us. or
You will
something,
give us the answers, yeah.
Start, burning his cheek a little bit. Something.
Alright, so that's touching up on how Kylo Ren first shows up. It sounds like everyone likes the way he looks, likes the way he starts, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get
He's
into
got
how
a
he
cool little-
finishes later, but he
Yeah.
started really well.
I like his little voice disguise, too.
Yeah, I do like...
It's kind of, I don't know, it's cool. It's kind of Darth Vader-y a bit, but
Yeah.
it's still I don't know, it still makes sense because he just kind of wants to, have the anonymous kind of vibe to him.
Change
A
his
little
whole
more
image. But it's
intimidating.
interesting that everyone seems to know who he is. We're not supposed to know at this point. We won't get into spoilers until we get there. But everyone, because the old guy was making reference before Ren killed him and then slaughtered the village, that you can't hide who you are, who your father was. So it's kind of hint of this guy's got more of a background. But then it seemed like every other character knew who he was, but the audience didn't.
Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
So, even though he put on the mask and basically became, the leader of the First Order, well, other than Ginger Hitler, who we'll get into. Those two, but everyone seemed to kind of know his past, so he didn't
And
really
Snoke.
go. Snoke is the supreme leader. We don't know much about Snoke.
He's the new Emperor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or Chancellor, going back to the prequels. He's the
I
new-
wonder if they'll go more into his rank. Is that the, top of the Sith Order? Or is that just, kind of
Probably. I mean, I can't imagine who would be
somewhere
above
around the
him.
top?
Yeah, I can't...
Yeah.
see who-
Supreme
'cause
Leader
I felt
usually
like the
means-
Emperor, I felt like there was no
Right.
one really above the Emperor
Yeah.
in the original movies. He was the top of the Sith Tower.
Yeah.
Right, see, that's what I
that was
thought.
the height.
So is
you
this
became
just the
Emperor,
guy
so-
that took over for the Emperor?
That's what I
probably?
feel like he's gonna be.
Yeah. After the Empire collapsed in 6, they kind of had a lull, and then maybe he's the one. We'll go more into it in 7 or 8. where he kind of like rebuilt the bad guys, and he kind of took control, maybe like manipulated some of Kylo Ren and then Ginger Hitler. I don't know what his real name is. I think it was like Hux or something, but I'm going to call him Ginger Hitler throughout the whole movie. Especially later on in a scene when he's commanding an army. It's very Hitler-esque.
Yeah. So there is that. That's after the First Order is pretty much attacks on what I still want to call Tatooine.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly how it feels. And Tatooine's a planet, so it should be big enough that she could be on the other side.
Yeah, well...
Instead of having to have brand new planets in a world that we've followed for almost 40 years now, it seems like.
It's a new solar
been out
system.
for a while,
It's a new
so-
solar system.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense that they'd move on. But yeah, that was the only kind of disappointing thing around all too, that there was a lot of similarities to older films as far as just like look and stuff, which that was kind of good and kind of bad. Like, I don't know, because it's cool to have the familiar stuff, but then it's a new film, so you expect more new craziness and like totally different worlds, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to me in this one that felt like, you know, you were re-watching episode 4 to a little extent. Like,
How you...
kind of a mix of episode 4 and 5, because you have the one like Tatooine world, Jakku.
Yeah, which is all desert.
Later you get to the Hoth world. So like it felt like a mix of kind of both movies to me, as opposed to just a complete remake of 4.
Yeah, I kind of felt like they were like choosing 4 for like a new generation, because the similarities between Luke and A New Hope and then Rey in this one is very, very similar. Like they both like on a desert planet. They're both kind of good young pilots. They both have aspirations for more, but there's something keeping them on their planet. In Luke's case, it was his aunt and uncle. In Rey's case, it was she's waiting for family that will probably never show up again. So they kind of had a reason to stay on that planet they were, but they wanted to move on.
So we've already gotten into Rey a little bit. And he takes on Finn, seeing as he actually shows up before Rey ever shows up in the movie.
Well, Finn's opening is interesting because he's a stormtrooper that was apparently raised from birth. Like, they took him away from his family.
2187.
Yeah. Which his name's not Finn, it's FN2187.
It just makes me feel like they're trying to falsify cursing a lot in this movie.
Before Poe gives him a new name, like a dog. He's, your name's FN2187? I'm going to call you Finn. You're Finn now, boy.
Good Finn.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
See, Finn was an interesting character because he kind of has, like, no real training as as a stormtrooper. He's apparently trained from when they took him and they raised him up, and yet this was his first battle on Jakku when they go to the planet, and yet he doesn't fire his weapon because he decides then and there that he doesn't want to be part of the
stormtroopers.
the First Empire,
First Order.
the First Order.
It's like Empire.
Yeah.
Empire part.
And yet he's very good at like battle later on, as we see, and yet he's had no actual battle training. It's been just all like tests where the stormtroopers are, but they don't kill each other.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, he's good with a blaster, but then you see him in combat later with like when they're trapped on the planet. I can't remember where it was with the Maz. I can't remember what her planet was.
I don't think they called it a planet. They just called it Maz Kanat when they went there.
Okay, so but he
I don't
was.
think Solo says what the planet's called. I think he just says
They just
Maz
go
Kanat
there?
when they go there.
Okay.
And that's skipping a little ways ahead.
Yeah, it just
to
seems.
that point.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, it just seems like he's too advanced in battle for having like no training, especially because his background that we find out later is in sanitation. So he wasn't actually battled. He wasn't a soldier. He was just a janitor. That
all stormtroopers are soldiers. All of them.
He's too good for battle based on his history they showed us. That was my only problem with that.
I didn't feel like they really developed him much as like where he came from or anything. Like it felt like there wasn't a whole lot of background to him. Like they were just like, he's a stormtrooper. He got some blood on his helmet. He doesn't want to be a stormtrooper anymore.
Yeah.
That was it.
And then he
I
turned.
bet they'll get
Now he's a
that
good
in the
guy.
next movie, though. Like in film 8, I bet they'll go a lot on Rey's
I kind of
past, a
hope
little
they
more with the family waiting.
do go a little bit more back into the past in the next movie when it comes out.
They will.
Yeah.
They'll probably go more.
Because I felt like,
Yeah, that'll be the explanation of a lot of open ends.
because usually I'm not like, I'm more of a fan of faster paced stuff. And this one I felt like based on like the old Star Wars, like you got to know Luke, like you got to know Solo and Chewbacca, and you got to know these people first. And this one doesn't feel like you really get to know them. It just feels like they're all thrown in there, like a roll of the dice.
I think with that was it
We
kind of
rolled
felt
the
like
Jedi dice.
it felt like it was 2 movies in one, like because it was the first entry in the new series.
See,
They kind of wanted
I
to
did feel
roll
like it
a
was
bunch of
2
stuff in
movies.
one, so they kind of didn't
Yeah.
have time, quote unquote, to give
I felt like I felt
half
like
out
they
of Rey, half
rushed
out
a
of
lot.
Finn.
Yeah.
And this is one of those few times I don't think I would mind getting more background on the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been cool for a little bit. I kind of like the way they did that,
Like,
though.
not
Like,
like-
kind of, just introducing some people,
Not like
explaining it later. Like, they
over
don't have to tell
drastically,
everybody's,
but
like,
just
life stories.
a little bit more than what you got.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Rey's gonna definitely be a lot more in the second movie.
Yeah, because it's
Based on
basically
where we ended.
her story kind of, and Finn's there with her, but it's basically the Rey story.
Or Girl Luke, as I want.
Yeah. Only she was a little bit. See, the only problem I had with Rey is that I felt she was too powerful
She's
for
too
what
good
she.
at everything. Like, immediately.
She never showed any weakness. Like basically every obstacle they put in front of her, she
I felt
conquered.
that way too. Like, I felt like there was no weakness in her because I felt like every time you never felt like she was going to be in actual trouble.
Because she was always going to get her
So
way out of it.
that was one of the
Yeah.
downsides, in my opinion, was like she
That's
felt
like-
just very know-it-all super well, but
Yeah. But that's kind of the role of the Star Wars hero. Like, they always get fucked up, but they always get out of it, Like, with everybody, it's always like the main character is invincible. Because they can't just kill the main character right away. Which always makes,
Yeah.
like, fantasy.
Unless it's
just
like,
that kind
Game of
funny,
Thrones
like-
or something where they just kill
Right.
anybody.
yeah.
But in-
well,
in-
and you
Your
don't
favorite
want to
people.
see your main character die, but I think I want to see her in more peril than she ever actually gets into.
I will agree with
Yeah.
that.
Like, it doesn't feel like she was ever in peril.
Like every situation, they kind
Yeah.
of like she's never flown the Millennium Falcon before. She's only heard about it, and yet she's automatically a great pilot at flying it. Considering the only thing she's ever flown is like a small little speeder on Jakku, she's all of a sudden a great pilot for
Yeah, so that was
gigantic ship.
That's what I wonder if that's something they kind of skipped over on, is if she must have been like flying around and training somehow on Jakku like before this all happened, because it's like, yeah, you don't just be like, oh, I'm an amazing pilot all of a sudden.
Yeah,
And then she knew that ship was a piece of junk. Like, she was heading toward the better ship that
yeah,
just
so it
got
was a
blown
different
up
ship.
yeah.
right away before they got there. So she's like, okay, we're trying the piece of garbage. And so that makes me think that maybe she was like flying each of them around. Like, maybe she floated around a couple times and like, but I don't know how they would, because the dickhead little
and they were
portion
owned-
vendor,
Yeah.
whatever
they were-
his name was.
They were owned by the vendor.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, as you can
It's
see
like
when
maybe
she's
she like jacked it one day.
when they're
or something.
stealing-
Give you credits.
She like,
yeah food portions.
portions.
Yeah,
right. Maybe she got pissed off at him and just did a joyride one night. Just like,
Yeah.
fuck you.
he's the typical like
taking out the Falcon.
dirt bag owner who's like, I know last week these were worth 1 portion, but this week they're worth half a portion because I control your food and I can do whatever I want. Like, he was just like, he owns the junkyard and he owns the majority of the food, so he can do whatever he wants, because it's typical, just like no motive other than just being a bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of like how they did that weird portion stuff. Like, it was just this, like, it was almost like food drugs or something.
Yeah.
Like, it came in this crystal thing, and then you added water and a
Watered
powder
it.
to it, and then it grew this weird green bread.
True.
Like, oh yeah.
Not very appetizing looking bread. What it grows.
If you're on a poor planet, you'll eat what you can get.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Maybe it
true.
tastes delicious.
How do you guys feel about BB-8 as the new droid?
He was cool. I thought I was gonna be annoyed by him at first, because I thought, it was like, you already got R2D2, and then that was kind of one of the things like this movie kind of seemed like it did. It's like, oh, we'll have something like the originals, but it's even better or like cuter or bigger.
Yeah,
like, so
yeah,
that one I thought he was just gonna be
he
annoying
was
little
basically
cute
designed
guy, but-
just to sell toys.
right. But he ended up, I liked
don't
him.
know.
He ended up being really cool. Like,
Ended up being a better droid than 3PO. So
Well, that's not hard because
which
3PO.
isn't hard, but everyone loves R2D2. And
C-3PO
in my opinion, he's
is-
kind of the new R2D2.
Yeah, that was his whole thing.
Right.
That was where he was supposed to be. Like, because
And
3PO for me, he's kind of like
He's a one-of-a-kind droid.
3PO.
No BB-8.
Oh, well, yeah,
They say that he's like, there's no other orange BB droids.
because you basically get with the old like R2D2. There's like an R1, there's like an R2 and R4. So it's kind of a whole model series where BB's more original.
Yeah, like he's one.
I just
there's
kind of felt
one
that
BB droid.
I just kind of felt that his design was just made to sell to children. Like that was their whole thing. They didn't really care about a droid. They just wanted something for marketing purposes.
I could see that.
That's why they made him spherical. That's why they made him all cute and like small, and he's got like the little fun noises, different than
Right.
R2, where R2 was just like beep beep beep. BB-8 kind of had like a personality, but or he would hang his head down in sadness if he was sad.
He did, yeah.
He would like perk up if they said so. It's like the whole thing was like played for laughs a little bit, but not as bad as.
It didn't feel like he was specifically like played for laughs. In fact, it didn't really feel like there was a thrown in there specific for comic relief character in this movie.
Actually, that's not true.
I thought there was a
You
few.
think there was a few comic
I
relief?
thought there was
Finn.
one.
I
Finn
thought
is
there were
one.
comic relief moments. I
Yeah.
didn't think characters.
See, I felt
Because
Finn
there's
was
definitely the part where like BB-8 flips off Finn is a comic relief moment.
No, he gives
Or
the thumbs
he gives
up.
the
Or he
thumbs
gives
up.
a thumbs
He's
up.
like,
Because
thumbs
Finn
up,
gives him
buddy.
the thumbs up.
I was pretty sure.
But I thought Finn was the comic guy that was too comic relief because his whole thing.
Yeah, I guess he-
Because how does he have that like funny personality? He was trained as a stormtrooper. He was the mentality of kill, and yet when he's flying away with Poe in the cruiser, he's making jokes and he's like, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" Like he was basically played up as like a funny guy kind
because
of.
he was saying attention.
But he
so
has no
his life
personality
sucks.
would lead to that. Like, how does he know what comedy is? He was a stormtrooper in a sea of stormtroopers.
Right.
Did we?
They
But
probably
these-
got
but
their
these
own weird
stormtroopers,
cultures.
Like they weren't clones anymore. They were actual people that were
But if they're soldiers, they're not going to be
picked up
cracking
at
jokes.
birth
Oh, soldiers crack jokes all the time, I bet. Well,
all the time.
yeah,
when they're not on a drop or a.
Yeah, but
So,
I'm,
so
fuck
when
you call
they're
that?
in sanitation, they probably talk jokes.
I don't buy it. I think he was too. And then there was other moments where I felt like he was too funny.
See, I felt there were like overly like comedic moments. I didn't feel like there was a like an overly comedic character. Like when you had Jar
Just
Jar
like no
Binks,
Jar
or
Jar.
when you had C-3PO.
The
who
the
just
original
felt
Jar
like-
Jar Binks. The
who
people
felt like
overlook.
they were specifically just
Yeah.
there for comedy only.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
there was no other purpose. I didn't feel like there was anything overwhelmingly.
I mean, with most
That's
of
true.
Finn's dialogue early, I kind of felt that he was there to make for laughs. Like when when Ray and him are in the Millennium Falcon and they're trying to fix the gases, and then Finn's like, "Oh, you got a boyfriend? Is he a cute boyfriend?" Like I think that whole thing was like designed to Ray to being like, "Oh, because he's in love with her." Like the moment
I feel
he
like
sees
there's
her.
a lot of setup to Ray and Finn hooking up at some point.
Yeah.
Especially like when they're running away on Jakku, and he like grabs Ray's hand and she goes, "Don't take my hand."
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
expecting, and then later on, I'm expecting she'll probably be like, "Oh, you can take my hand now."
Yeah.
I think-
I'm
I like
fully
all
seeing
those-
that route going.
Yeah. I liked all those drops just for the like feminist side of things. Like it was almost like the new Mad Max about they just had like
It was
they're not afraid to have like a girl in there that can handle herself, and I think that's why they kept doing that. Like, Finn kept grabbing her
Yeah.
hand like, "Come on, maiden, I'll save you."
Yeah.
And she's like, "God damn it, I don't need saving.
I
Just
beat you
fucking
up
let
with.
me run."
I learned martial arts from Donatello. I don't need your help
Right?
with my
Gave
bow
me one of
staff.
his
she does
old
have
model
bow
bow
staffs.
staffs.
But-
Well, and that's like I saw some other people complaining on the internet about like the fact that she was so good with a lightsaber, but I was like, she already proved she can fight with a stick.
Yeah, because she
So why
practiced with
wouldn't
that
she
shit
be good
already.
with something else?
Right? It's just a stick
Like,
with
so
a
I'm
really,
like,
really
it just
hot
seems like
end.
she would be able to fight anyways. Like
she doesn't need
we already
anybody.
saw she can fight.
Because the moment Finn sees her, like he flips into mentality because he's getting water with like that giant hippo type thing.
That thing
and
was
he
cool.
and he sees those guys trying to harass her because they want to take BB-8, and he instantly flips into, "I'm gonna save her. She's a damsel in distress."
Right.
Yeah.
So he goes and then he sees her beating up people, and then he kind of backs off, and yet his whole mentality kind of for the first half, 3/4 of the movie is like, I've got to protect her. Like for some reason he thinks
I
he's
gotta
like
protect her.
her knight in shining armor that
Right.
she doesn't need because he needs
Because she
saving
makes
more than
those
she
mentions
does.
too.
That was funny.
Like, and she was definitely a strong, like female role, strong character.
She don't need no man.
Right. That was another funny Finn part that I did like when Harrison was nodding over just to look over there. He's like, "What's this? What are you doing with your face?" "I'm trying to come up with a plan." Like, I don't know. I liked his stuff. It was I don't know. It was all right. This is kind of what I expected, I guess, from a Disney Star Wars movie.
Yeah, now getting into Harrison Ford, what did you think of his character in this? How he was kind of like the old, like, rebel Harrison Ford,
Yeah.
who was kind of like a
I,
merchant, kind of. I can't think of the right word. It's
a smuggler.
A smuggler.
He was back to being kind of a smuggler and like a bounty hunter in a way, because they were picking up monsters to deliver to two different people that they owed money.
yeah. Well, he borrowed
So,
money
I mean-
from because they mentioned a guy's name in there who I think is gonna be like the new Jabba, who we see because they mentioned like he
Yeah.
borrowed money from these two groups,
Well, from-
and then he borrowed money from like this big guy, and he was gonna pay back. I think they were setting up for like that guy to be like the new Jabba type of
The
thing.
new Jabba the
I
Hutt.
think we'll go there in 8 or 9 where we'll kind of see the guy he was talking about.
Yeah, I think we might.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll keep going after Chewie or something.
Well, yeah, because Chewie's still there, and he works with Chewie to smuggle. Or
Yeah, he's
Chewie
been-
works with him.
He's been
so-
been with Han since we've seen him in the beginning.
Yeah.
basically-
they've always been together.
Although we'll get into this later, but it's interesting to see where Chewie goes in the future because we'll see where he goes.
We know where he's going.
Where's he going, Ben?
He's going back on the Millennium Falcon
Well, yes.
with Rey.
Yeah. That's the end of the movie, Ben. We're not there yet.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Spoiler alert.
Should we
factor that in?
should we say it now? When do we reveal the
So, and the other thing I thought,
Well, hopefully they know already if they're listening.
the first time I watched it, I thought, like they get to Kylo Ren being Solo's kid actually really quick in the movie.
Yeah.
Because like the first time I watched it, I was like, I thought it'd take a little while to get there.
Yeah.
The second time when we just rewatched it last night, like it's probably maybe 25 minutes in the movie because it's the first time they show Snoke. He says it.
Yeah, because like they hint to it on Jakku in the beginning with the old guy mentioning like your father.
Like, they hint it, but like
And then
Yeah.
Snoke
Snoke's
flat out says it. He's like, "Whoa, you're not prepared to deal with your dad, Solo."
Han Solo, and then
Like, that was quick.
Kylo Ren goes into I'll deal with it when it comes. Like he's like I'm over that.
Yeah,
I'll be strong.
Yeah,
I'll be strong.
because I mean they
swear.
they established that Kylo Ren's kind of not like he's not a full trained Sith
He's a
yet.
wuss.
We'll get there, Ben. But he wasn't like a full trained Sith. Like we know they reference that like. And this goes into kind of like what happened to Luke. Is it like they make reference to because Leia tells us, and then Han tells
Well, Han
Rey
tells you
and
that
Finn
Han
on the
tells Rey
ship.
and Finn
on the ship
that Luke had a Jedi that turned
against him.
and he felt that it was his fault.
so Luke
It
went
was
into
Luke's
hiding.
fault. That's why Luke disappeared.
And I'm pretty sure we all know that Jedi was Kylo Ren, because
Yeah.
you know that
Well, yeah, you couldn't. There's no way it's gonna be some other guy at this point. Like
They just
guy.
kill him off
Like,
first
they-
thing in the next film.
they
Like,
know-
actually, he was talking about this guy.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't Solo's son. It was Rey.
yeah, it was Obi-Wan's grandson.
Yeah.
That just popped
yeah.
up.
It was Darth Maul's great.
But so it's interesting that kind of, and then they say that like Kylo Ren goes off because his whole name is like Ren because he was the last knight of Ren. So, but we don't know what that is yet.
Yeah,
like they
we
make
haven't
reference.
really got there.
We know it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
like a group, maybe the group like of bad guys of evil. So they kind of turned him to
Is that why he's Kylo Ren?
yeah, because
Okay.
his real name is Ben Solo.
Well, we know it's Ben Solo.
But,
But they mentioned
but
that later.
I don't know where Kylo comes from. Maybe that's the name they gave him in the Knights of Ren. But the Ren
Yeah.
comes from, and then he's the last member, so we don't know like if he turned on them too to kill them all, like he did with Luke's Jedi.
Right.
If Snoke basically is manipulating him to do this, because we see Kylo Ren when he's talking to himself, he's talking to Darth Vader's helmet, saying like, "I will finish what you started."
where he's like,
Yeah.
But he
which also baffles me because technically Vader turns for good,
doesn't know
and
that.
then
Yeah.
you would think he would know.
They didn't write that in
so-
his
I
history
was
books.
thinking about that. They're just like, it was just one of those things that was kept a secret or something.
Yeah,
Because
I was
only,
The
you know,
Emperor-
only Luke saw that
'cause only
happen,
Luke
really.
and
then
the Emperor
saw
who
it
know
when he
that Darth-
died.
killed
Yeah.
by him would be the only two. That
And I'm sure
really know
Luke
he
didn't
turned.
go. I mean, Luke might have told people that, like, yeah, my
Right.
father.
Dad saved the day.
The last minute is beautiful.
So the last,
That
maybe
is
in the Star
amazing.
Wars history books, they only wrote about how Darth Vader was this
Wow.
evil.
Bad Darth Vader was.
But I think the interesting line that I'm not sure if it was on purpose or if they're kind of hinting to, but when Kylo Ren's talking to the Darth Vader helmet, he says like, "Show me again." Like, he doesn't... So, basically, we don't know if, like, Darth Vader came to him in a dream, like, and said, hey, do this, or if Snoke was... Like, he made reference to, show me the dark side again. So, there's something... I think there's something there in the beginning that, like, we'll see in the next movie, how somebody's manipulating Kylo Ren into turning evil because maybe it's Snoke, maybe it's the Knights of Ren who are doing this, that are using Darth Vader as, like, a front. Because, basically, Kylo Ren's a Darth Vader fanboy.
Yeah, he definitely is a Darth Vader fan.
Because his whole thing is like, I will...
Wants to be like his grandpa.
Supreme hipster.
And Ray even says it, like, you're afraid you'll never be as good as Darth Vader, and then he goes into another one of his fits.
Right.
That's the second time that he has a temper tantrum.
Which I'm sorry, Hayden Christensen, but you are no longer the worst temper tantrum thrower in the Star Wars universe, because Kylo Ren is worse.
Kylo Ren throws some major temper tantrums.
I made a joke last night that basically his whole thing was like, every scene he was in when he took off the mask, it made it seem like he was going to cry.
Yeah.
And his theme song should have been My Chemical Romance. That's who the person he is.
I did not like him at all. Like, once the helmet comes off, I was like, ah. And to me, he does not look like he would be Han Solo's kid. Like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of other castings where they've had better people that look closer to the actor that they're going to be the kid of.
Like, I think Ray looks a lot like...
I think Ray looks closer to Mark Hamill than he does to...
I was going to say Mark Hamill. I was going to say, like, Natalie Portman in the prequels. Like, she looks very similar to that. And then,
she kind of does.
Anakin's mother in Phantom Menace, like, Shmi, I think she looks, like, side by side, they look very similar.
Looks like she could be, like, the descendant of them.
Of a Skywalker.
Ray looks like any of them, like any of the Solos.
You mean Ren?
Or Ren, yeah. I don't think Ren looks like either Han Solo or Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Which they talk about how he's their kid, yet he looks absolutely like neither one of them.
He's got, like...
He's got, like, a very big
black
nose.
hair.
Well, the black hair I kind of figured is because he's a dark bad guy.
Right.
But he's
Leia
got,
slept with the mailman.
But
That's all it was.
But he's got, like, curly black hair that's kind of not similar to
either of them.
I mean, he could have a curling iron in his suite on the planet.
Or maybe he dyes it
3.
black. That's his level of gothness.
Well,
he dyes it black because it fits his soul.
It is dyed. Like, so it's obviously dyed black. I assume
Jet black. That's
so
possible.
So he stays dark and mysterious.
He uses, like, the evil powers. They have their own, like, evil barber.
Yeah, like, I just did not like...
Just dye it with the Force.
Like, he is probably my least favorite bad guy so far in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's just nothing to me at the point he gets the helmet. Like, once he starts and he has his helmet and everything, I do like the way he looks.
He's a badass.
I like the way he acts. Mm-hmm. As soon as his helmet comes off, it definitely feels like he's gonna cry or cut himself. Like, it just felt so not evil anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they went in...
And they talk about how, well, he's struggling with the light and the darkness, because that's what... Because they do talk about that in the movie, but it just never feels like... He never feels like a legit, like, bad guy.
See, and I'm okay with, like, him struggling with, like, the light and the dark, because he's not full Jedi, he's not full Sith yet, he's not full evil, so he still has those moments, so he's gonna be conflicted, but the moment you take that away, it's good character development, I think, but the moment you take that, you add that element, he loses, like, his badassness, like, he loses
he's no longer...
what made him so cool in the first scene, and now he's just an angsty teenager.
Yeah, and that's how I felt, too, because I felt... When you first saw him with the First Order and he's like, level this village, you were like, all right, this guy's awesome. He's just going to take it to people.
Exactly.
And then you got to him later, he took off his helmet and he
changed.
He looks terrible.
See, I thought that was actually
I just
good.
Don't like him
like,
at all.
I thought there were... At first, I didn't like him at all. Like, first viewing, I was just like, like, it could have been better, whatever. It could have been more scary. But I kind of like him better now, or at least just a little bit, because he still had a few badass elements and, like, just total evil, like you were saying, like, just, you know, ordering to murder the whole village. And I thought at first I didn't like when he took off his mask, because it does. It kind of, like, you know, humanizes him and makes him feel like less of just this mysterious evil
Yeah.
like dude or whatever that you don't know much about, because mystery keeps like the fear element in there. So like I don't know, I kind of liked and didn't like how they showed his face. Like it was really cool to like humanize the character, and it was cool to show that even though he was a Sith, that he was still kind of having like feelings of like, oh, maybe I should just go back to the parents or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Like say sorry, Daddy Han.
Like, and what made it I think what made it good, like when he took off his mask, kind of, and it showed him that he wasn't burned, he wasn't scarred, he wasn't disfigured like Vader was. Like people who wear masks, he did it because he was ashamed of his parents to hide his face. I thought that element was good. I just couldn't get over the fact that he was too whiny and too like, Do I do this? Oh, this person got away. Let me throw a tiny little tantrum.
He threw a lot of temper tantrums.
But I have a feeling that's not going to be around in the next film because that's like a main thing that fans are complaining about. So you know they're gonna make him a little more. You know that he's not going to throw his fits anymore in the next movie, and they're going to have it like. I think this film was showing like the death of the light within him, because you know he's conflicted with the light side, and he was still doing all this like crazy fucked up stuff, but he would still
what he needed to do to kind of fully turn.
And then you see at the end Snoke is like, grab Kylo Ren, it's time to complete his training. So in the next movie, if because he's gonna be in all 3 movies, so he's obviously gonna be like the main bad guy under Snoke and under Hux, Ginger Hitler. His name is General Hux, Ginger Hitler, GH. I think it works perfectly.
Right.
But he's going to be, so they're going to basically make him more hardened, more evil, and then I'm okay with that. It's just, you can't make him, like, redeemable. Like, because they went this way, like, now he basically has to be evil. Like, don't make it a Darth Vader moment to where at the end he saves himself. Because you can't do that.
Well, not with the route that he's already taking, because the route he's taking, it's pretty hard that you're gonna redeem him at this point.
I know, but I don't want him to be like in the 9th movie, like at the end, he saves Rey when Snoke is gonna kill her, like repeat the Vader.
Right.
I don't see that happening, and I can't see that where that would go anywhere in your favor for that.
I just don't want it to happen. Like, don't make him redeemable. I'm fine if he's like a shit heel, if he's like this evil SOB in the last 2 movies, and then he gets defeated, and that's that. Just don't try to make him redeemable, and I'll be happy.
And that's the route I think they need to go at this point, and I think that's where they're trying to go. I feel like maybe they pushed it a little quickly for him in the one movie. Yeah. To already be like, I think they might have tried to push his character development too fast.
Yeah, because they had to do it because they've got
because they're trying to, because they have this and they have so many Star Wars movies planned now.
Which don't take place, like they're all set beforehand.
Yeah, they're all set beforehand, and then you have the 3 main ones that are coming out. Yeah.
Or 2 more after this.
Yeah, and I feel like this next one is going to be absolutely Rey's development of training.
We'll find out more.
I expect her to train.
Yeah.
The next one.
Well, because now we don't know, and this is. I think we should get into like Rey's past, like speculation wise. Like I think that we all think, because we talked about last night, that she's Luke's daughter.
I think she has to be Luke's
We think they're going with that. So what they could do is they could actually play that to where Luke trained her as a Jedi, and then once Kylo Ren turned against him, like we don't know like how old she was at the time. We don't know how old this was, so she could technically be part of that Jedi Order. Kylo Ren kills everybody, leaves her, and then Luke sends her to Jakku, wipes her mind, and then makes her think that she's just like a scavenger when she's really got all this Jedi training. So that would explain like how she knows how to fly.
Yeah, how she knows how to pilot a ship.
How she's so great, like with lightsabers, hand-to-hand combat. Like that would be a good explanation. Like I think we'll see in the 8th movie, like Rey's backstory. I don't know if they'll reveal like who her father is.
Reveal the whole backstory. I think we'll just see more about Rey.
Because at the end of the we do see.
I felt like this whole movie, Rey is just very adept to everything.
You leave the movie thinking, okay, what's next for Rey? Based on like the last scene, which we're in there.
And I definitely thought the first time I thought that she was Luke's kid was when they get to the little bar in Mos Kanat. They meet Mos Kanat, and they go in there, and Luke's lightsaber calls specifically to Rey.
Yeah. So that's why she's got to be his daughter.
Yeah, and that's where you're like, all right, obviously there's a big link to Luke and Rey.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that'll make sense.
Because it wouldn't make any sense to take a random girl that Luke's lightsaber calls out to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think they'll get into kind of how, like, it called out to her, because we still don't know, and Maz even says this, like, where did you find this lightsaber? Because last we saw of the blue lightsaber was getting chopped off with Luke's hand in Cloud City at the end of Empire. Like
that's right, 'cause
Cloud
he
City is
builds
like
the
a
green
giant
one after.
is a
Yeah,
giant
Cloud
city in the
City,
sky.
yeah.
So somehow in the 30 years or so, she or
Well,
somehow
Maz cannot had it because she tells Solo that that's a different
I
story
know,
for a different.
but we don't
time.
know how she got it. We don't know like how that lightsaber falling from Cloud City into oblivion, because basically Cloud City is a giant city in the sky, so it
Yeah.
fell to something below, like how she ended up with it.
Yeah.
So we don't know that story, but we'll go into it. But it counted, like, it called to her, which it hasn't done to anybody.
Yeah, nobody before her. So.
Yeah.
And you do hear, like, I don't know if it's played on this, but you do hear when it's calling to her, like, screams of children.
Yeah.
So maybe Luke had it when he was training the Jedi, and then Kylo Ren, maybe the children that Kylo killed, because, like, you hear a scream of a child.
That's what I thought, because I thought you definitely heard kid screams.
So, and that's never been in any movies, like, other than the prequel when Anakin kills the child. But in the
Kills all the
trilogy,
Jedis.
yeah, in the trilogy, there's no children who die. So it's obviously something happens to make children scream, and then Luke we see in the flashback with like his hand touching R2,
Yeah.
and then we see. Now, what do you guys think of the flashback scene?
I thought the flashback was okay. It was different to see where it was going. I don't know. It was cool to see Luke's like reaching out to R2, so you know that put R2 somewhere in the place of this,
Yeah,
where he was gonna come into it later. So, and I assume that's where at the end R2's map came from.
yeah, where Luke
But
does that.
especially to where Luke is located, who is what the whole movie is realistically trying to do is find Luke, the last Jedi.
Because they say he goes off in search of the Jedi Temple to be alone. Because after Kylo Ren turned, like Ben said, he blamed himself and he wanted to be
He
alone.
blames himself.
And then Rey finds him at the end of the movie, just kind of, and that kind of sets up the
I expect expect him to be the new Yoda, because that's kind of the same way.
Where they're setting
explain,
up.
They're like, well, Yoda let Anakin join the Jedi Council and everything, and had him get trained, and he goes evil, and then they talk about how Luke is training Jedis, and a Jedi goes evil.
And so it's kind of, that's because
So I
Luke's
feel
got
like we're
reservations
getting-
about training people, but you kind of have an intense stare down at the end of the movie between him and Rey
Yeah.
when she's holding his lightsaber.
My daughter. Now I got her trainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, there was a hand too. Did you bring the hand?
Yeah.
You got the lightsaber. Did you get the hand?
Can you get my hand back?
But I think, because in the flashback, we see, like, somehow, like, the Knights of Ren, we actually see them, and then Kylo kills somebody who we think is going to attack Rey, or we see in that scene, like, just a red lightsaber kills a guy who's trying to... No, we don't know, like, if Rey was in those scenes, or if she's just having visions of them.
Right.
The way they set it
I
up...
think she was, because I think there was a little girl that
I
was
think
like,
she
"No,
was
let me
there."
go," and they're like leading her away
Yeah.
by her hand, and they gave her the exact same haircut.
that was
she
little
has
Rey,
now.
like, being left on
So it's
Jakku.
like somehow, yeah,
'cause I
like maybe that's
assumed
when they
that
dropped
was
her off.
them leaving her when she got left at Jakku by her parents.
And like I said, we see the Knights of Ren killing somebody, and then we see like the battle in the snow with Rey and Kylo. Like that was kind of foreshadowing to later in the movie when they would go one-on-one. So it was kind of like a scene of the past and then a scene of the future.
Yeah, because they did have her like running away in the snow while she was going through that dream sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a feeling a lot of the next movie is just going to be like more flashbacks to, fill in the pieces of
Yeah.
that. How, the lightsaber,
I
Rey
could
and Finn's background maybe a little bit. Kylo's probably like maybe they'll go in a little bit.
They'll show a little bit of
more
his
the-
evil
I
training.
think they'll
Yeah.
go more into like Kylo training more and all of that stuff.
Yeah. And
Come
Snoke.
forward.
Like the whole
Maybe
movie.
it'll just be the training flashback movie.
Yeah.
The training.
It's like
flashbacks.
everybody's just going to train
It'll-
up.
they'll have a-
Flashback.
They'll have a split screen. On the left side will be Rey training, and on the right side will be Kylo training.
That's
They'll
the
be
whole
playing
movie.
Eye of the Tiger.
They'll build into it. It'll be like Rocky 4.
Yeah.
Where we see like Rey punching things of meat while Ren's getting injected with steroids to make him stronger. It's leading up to
So
episode
then,
9 when they
as we're
fight.
leading up to that, so like when we get to that big fight between, actually the fight before that, The one that everyone seems to really love is when the stormtrooper comes with the nightstick.
Oh yeah, when he calls out Finn for
Kinda-
being a traitor,
Yeah,
which I
calls
agree.
out Finn for being a traitor and kind of kicks Finn's ass.
Yeah, because Finn has the lightsaber that Maz gave him because she told him to give this to your friend.
Because Moss was supposed to gave it to Finn to give to
To Rey. So he's using it in the stormtrooper with the little nightstick, like Ben says,
badass
is kicking his ass. Is kicking Finn's ass.
Yeah, I was like, and that's
It's
so
kind
it was
of which
pretty cool to see. It was cool to see a new weapon,
yeah,
like a new weapon that could defend against lightsabers.
yeah.
Yeah. The ballsiest stormtrooper yet.
Heck yeah.
And then we see Finn get his ass kicked, which makes sense because he has no like real training because he was a janitor. He shouldn't be like great in training. He should have
Right.
some, but he shouldn't be an expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't a high rank.
From there, there's a lot.
The stormtrooper dies, which is
The stormtrooper does
the
that.
saddest part of the movie because
That is. It was far sadder than when the other guy dies. You know, my heartless moments.
what's next, Ben? We'll talk about that when we get there. Don't jump.
I'm not trying to jump there. That's what I said.
Yeah.
The not saddest part in the movie for me. Actually, that's where we're leading up to because that's the first fight, and then the next fight is where you get to. Is where you get up there, where you get to Rey, and then all of them fighting as they set up all the detonators after Rey gets captured.
Well, yeah, because Rey gets captured
So
by
Rey gets
Kylo Ren.
captured by Kylo Ren first.
And then we see them go back to the base, and then we actually see Finn get reunited with Poe because they both think each other is dead because when they crash landed on Jakku in the beginning, Poe was gone and Finn thought he was dead, and then same thing, Poe couldn't find Finn, so they both, and then you kind of see them have like a little like bro hug
Yeah.
at the end when they get there because they're alive.
Which I don't think we've said anything about Poe yet.
He
at
was
all.
good.
To me, he was there.
I think
Like,
he
he
was
was
like
another
he's like
guy.
the Han Solo of this.
That's what I expect him to be because he's like super good pilot.
They say he's the best pilot in
He's
the,
the best
Resistance.
in the Resistance.
Yeah.
Or the new Rebellion.
Yeah, whatever. It's going up
To
against
fight the
evil.
new Empire.
Yeah. He's the Han Solo of this generation. It's just Rey and Finn aren't Luke and Leia because they're not brother and sister.
Yeah.
Although
So,
that would be
like-
a twist.
Poe was interesting. To me, he really felt like he was just there. Like, I didn't think he added anything, but I didn't think he took anything away.
I guess because he does kind of get cut out of the middle of the movie just because
Yeah,
we
like-
don't see him after he gets stranded on
After he gets
Jakku.
lost in Jakku.
Like
but
they don't
that's
say
when
how he gets home. They just kind of have him show up later when
he
Finn's.
very shortly tells Finn
Oh,
when they meet back up. He's like, "I thought you were dead," and he's like, "Well, I got out of the crash."
yeah, but they don't say how he like. How,
But that's pretty much all that they said.
Yeah.
He
Well, he
did-
got flung from it like miles,
yeah,
and
he
he's
got-
like, I
planets.
woke
to,
up and you and the ship wasn't there.
Yeah, they just never said it. But they do kind of, like, in going back to Finn being like a comedy guy, when they're having the fight on Maz Kanat with, like, the stormtroopers and Kylo Ren's fighting Rey off in the distance. Like, they see Finn, like, when the pilots come in and Poe's killing all a bunch of stormtroopers, Finn makes a point to be like, wow, that's one hell of a pilot.
Yeah.
Like, another,
Yeah,
like,
I
like
noticed
another
that,
comedy
yeah.
moment of, like, wow, this is...
See, well, I thought
Yeah.
he was comedy moments. I don't think he's all comedy.
Like, I didn't
They're
hate-
definitely comedy
Like, I thought he was
moments for Finn.
too comedic at times was my
Yeah.
problem. Like, because everything was almost like a joke to him. Because, like, when they go into Ben, when they set the detonators before that, like, they're trying to get into the base, and then Finn and Han are talking, and then Han's like, so what was your job here? And Finn says sanitation.
Yeah.
Like, it was a joke, like, I worked in sanitation, and then Han gets pissed because people are counting on him, and then Finn was like, well, just use the Force.
yeah.
And then Han goes, that's not how the Force works. Like, it was a comedy
that
moment.
line.
Like, it was...
That's exactly how the Force works, though. Panned out perfectly.
Eh. But none of those people have the Force.
Panned out
Ray
well
did.
for him.
Yeah.
Ray used the Force to get
Yeah,
out of
Ray
there.
is the Force.
Yeah.
There's plenty of
Force she
Force
didn't know
using.
she
They didn't know that.
Her first mind trick.
Yeah, her first mind trick was to get out from the stormtrooper.
Yeah.
That was another good, like,
Capture.
comic relief kind of moment, you know, just randomly thrown in there, you know, it's like, after, you know, first mind trick on the stormtrooper.
Yeah.
It's like, it was kind of, you know,
She tries and fails, and then saying it 3 times apparently works.
yeah. Like, she finally gets into the, she's like,
She
oh yeah, you
used
just
it
gotta believe
enough.
it.
Yeah.
You have to believe in the Force to use the Force.
That's right.
Will remove my
Once you
restraints
believe.
and leave the door open.
So we're kind of leading to the scene, but
We are leading to this.
what did you guys think of Han Solo dying.
Did not care.
As always, Ben didn't give a shit.
Ben wouldn't care at his own funeral.
It's because we've watched someone die in almost every movie so far, and I still have yet to care about someone's death. So this is another moment where I was like, I wrote in my notes that I am heartless because I didn't care that Solo died.
Because that was part of the scene where, like, Han Solo is talking to Kylo Ren on the bridge because Leia wants Han to bring their son home, and then they're both kind of responsible for sending him away.
Where Ren finally goes full-blown evil by killing his dad.
Because you can hear him, like, struggling, be like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Yeah. And then Han is just, like, believing that he's going to turn good, and then Ren secretly knows that he's going to stab his father with the lightsaber.
Stabs right through Solo, and Solo falls off.
Yeah.
I think my issue with that is, like, the only people that felt, like, affected at all, whereas Chewbacca, who goes all aggro.
For a few seconds.
For, like, a few seconds, where he's like...
He kills a few stormtroopers.
He shoots some stormtroopers and blasts off the detonators. He shoots Kylo Ren. And then you see Leia for a brief second, like, oh, there's a disturbance in the Force.
Yeah, she can tell that like her spouse like dies, because you know when they say like if your loved one dies, you can feel it.
That's like as far as we went with
Han
Solo dying, who's been with you for 4 movies now.
That was my main problem with, or my second main problem with the movie is that nobody cared when he died, because even when they get back to the base, I think it was Dakar. When they get back to it, like nobody seems to care. Chewie looks a little sad. What?
It's Endor too.
Chewie looks a little sad, and then Rey and Leia have like a little hug embrace, and then that's it. Like that's the last anyone cares of Solo. Yeah, like they could have spent an extra 5 minutes putting in a funeral scene.
Yeah, Gwen Stacy had a funeral.
At least a few more mourning moments or something.
No.
It just kind of felt like
whatever, Solo's dead.
We defeated the bad guys the same way we defeated them in Episode 4. They had to have the pilots fly in and shoot an exposed area.
The Death Star 2000.
Death Star 3.0.
You go get that bigger Death Star. I like that they even kind of threw it in themselves that it was a recreation of, you know, the basic plot of the 4th film. Yeah. Because, you know, he makes that comment like, you know, there's always a way to blow these things up. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, actually there is.
It was like it was another comedy moment.
You go right through this little hole that...
to where they were talking, and it was
wide open.
It's like another Death Star. Then they're like, no. See, this was the Death Star. This small thing, and then they show now this is the new one, the Star Killer base. It's like a whole planet. There's a big difference. It's not the same thing.
And it's the Death Star
beam could split off into pieces and take out a whole system at once.
Take out like 4 planets. Because 5 planets.
They killed the whole.
Well, they did.
They killed the whole. I don't know what it was.
The Republic.
The Republic.
The New Republic that they.
Like they instantly, and that made them instantly more evil than anybody in the previous movies because they just killed 5 planets. Like the worst Vader did was blow up 1 planet. These people blew up 5.
Right.
I don't know.
They're that much evil.
I liked it.
They are super evil.
Yeah, they have to be. That was right when Ginger Hitler was giving his Nazi speech to all the stormtroopers before they launched the beam. He was talking.
It was very Nazi-esque because you had all the stormtroopers under him as he's like screaming.
And then they raise their fists in the air at the end, kind of like the Nazi salute. And I was like, wow, this is very familiar.
He did it really well in that speech, though. Like, he has a good, like, pissed-off kind of dictator, we're gonna murder voice, kind of like. That guy did really good.
He's gotta be.
Right?
Although, now, what did you guys think of... Because, like, General Hux was there, and then they were both talking to... And then Ren was both talking to Snoke. What did you guys think of Snoke?
I hate him.
I think he's all right. It's a really cool idea, I think. And I think that's why I think his rank is going to be a little higher than the Emperor, because it seems like if he was just the new Emperor, they would call him Emperor Snoke.
Yeah, and they call him the
But, like, somehow
leader.
he's Supreme Leader, so I was like, oh, is he, like, the...
He runs the district of emperors in the galaxy. Like he's like a district manager to all the other emperors.
He is fully gonna be like Jar Jar Binks. Gonna be Jar Jar Binks Wizard of Oz moment.
No, I think it's gonna be, and maybe it's just because Andy Serkis did the voice, but it kind of reminded me of just like Super Schmeagol. Like he was just like,
he kind of has
like
a look that way in
gray,
his face too.
Not doesn't have hair all gray and twisted. He's just like less whiny Smeagol.
They'll
It's
end
like,
up as like, we love
Smeagol's
Kylo Ren.
older
No, we hate Kylo Ren.
big
No, we
brother.
love Kylo Ren.
right.
Yeah, and he's getting ready to
But we
train
see him like,
Kylo.
I think what they had, because they showed him as like a gigantic like
Yeah, they
force in
showed
front
him
of him.
huge.
I think he's doing that himself.
projection.
Like I think
Yeah,
he's basically
the
part of like a
projection.
regular sized person, or maybe he's even like the size of an Ewok.
Yeah, because they still only
Walk.
communicate through his
He's just a
projected
And then
form.
at the end, he
so-
says, "Bring him to me." So we're gonna see him actually physically in the next movie, and I think he's obviously gonna be a lot smaller than a giant, but I think he's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot smaller than people think he is. He just kind of
Mm-hmm.
projected himself like a gigantic
Yeah,
image
to be
because
huge, because he's a supreme leader.
he's compensating for something.
Right.
He's got like a Napoleon complex.
I swear I'm bigger.
He's a little tiny guy.
Yeah. Oh, but this leads into... I want to talk about why I thought Kylo Ren was actually a badass a little bit towards the end, at least. Because, you know, a lot of people were giving him crap for, you know, it's two untrained people with a lightsaber that take him down, basically. But
one of
he
them
gets
is a
hit
Jedi.
by... No, but he gets hit by a bolt from Chewbacca's badass
Crossbow.
blow
Yeah,
everybody
from the-
away
from the
crossbow
bowcaster.
laser,
Yeah.
dude. So, like... And when he gets hit, when everybody else gets hit with that thing, they're like flying back, like basically exploding into the back, and he's just like, ugh,
He just takes it in the side. And then he bandages
And so
himself
he
up.
like still chases after him. He keeps hitting it like, oh yeah, it feels good when it hurts and bleeds and stuff like that. So it's like he was already like really fucked up, and
Yeah,
then
and
these
he-
two are using, you know, and obviously, you know, the powers of good in a film, so they're
Yeah.
always gonna triumph.
Yeah,
But
and one of them we already know can fight.
Yeah.
yeah,
It makes sense.
It's just
that-
a little ridiculous that, like, when he's fighting Rey after he disposes of Finn pretty easily, and it was pretty easy because Finn tries to run away.
Okay, yeah.
He has a couple of swings, but he's no match for Ren with a lightsaber. And then when he's fighting, the only problem I had was when Ren was fighting Rey, and like Rey closes her eyes for like I counted it was 9 seconds when
oh yeah, when they're doing the
Yeah,
like
it's a long
force.
time when
Like-
Ren was like, "You need a teacher to use the Force," and Rey has like a vision of like the Force and closes her eyes, and Kylo Ren's just standing there waiting for her to like open
stops
his
pushing.
Yeah, I was like
so are you gonna be my apprentice or what? What's going on?
it was
here?
it was 9 seconds. That's a long time to just stand there waiting for the good guy to realize their power, and then she kind of goes all aggro and kicks his ass.
Well, and she doesn't even really go like completely aggro. Like she ducks under that swing.
Yeah, but
and
then she's
comes
like,
around it. But then she does like come into her own.
but
like,
she's
thing.
hacking him, and she's like slicing him up, and
'Cause I
Right,
thought that
and
was
now
weird
his
that
face is scarred.
yeah.
Everybody
Shoot him
was
with a
like,
slice.
"Oh well, 2 people took down the bad guy," and I'm like, first of all, he did, like you said, he got shot with the bowcaster, and the bowcaster screwed up everything else it hit.
Well, stormtroopers
Right.
don't have
So-
no good armor. They just kind of wear.
Yeah,
Like I don't know
why
why.
is the stormtrooper armor so crappy?
right.
Like it's defended against blasters since we've seen stormtroopers.
They've got a mass
Since they
pro-
were clone troopers, it defended against the same blasters.
They've got to
Yeah,
mass.
it still can't take a blaster hit.
They've got to mass
Right.
produce them. They can't afford the best armor. They got to cut corners. There's
So,
like,
like-
They're cutting a lot of corners if they can't defend from the one thing that always hits them.
there's like a million
That's
of
a
them.
big corner to cut.
The first order's of business. They got to cut corners somewhere to make a profit.
It's a big corner to cut.
Snoke's-
To not defend against the one thing you get hit by every day.
Snoke's breathing down their neck. They gotta turn a profit, and they'll do whatever they can.
Well, they keep building giant death planets. Like
Yeah,
that's a
where they
lot of
should-
money.
That's where they should stop putting money. Is into these new Death Stars.
Still get
They just
destroyed.
keep getting
Like,
blown
they
up.
keep having an easy way to destroy them.
I'm gonna be pissed if in the second movie they're just building it again.
just
They have
rebuild-
that like
it's gonna be
half-built
like the
thing
broken
again.
Death Star.
No, that'll be in the third
Just like
movie.
no,
It's gonna be
damn it,
the
destroy
broken
somewhere.
Star
They'll-
base.
They'll take a movie off like they did in Empire, and then in the last movie they'll already have it half built and be like,
Right.
construction's already underway of the new one, and then they'll destroy that at the end and be like,
Blew it up again. Curses.
Absolutely.
how do we-
These Jedi. grr.
we did not see that coming. This came out of nowhere.
We really need a better shielding system.
Like how much?
seriously.
How do you make a? How about
I
next
think
time?
they should just put a plate over that one place it's always left to shoot into.
Just
Right. Or at least make like 10 to 20 decoys, so they have to like destroy a ton
you
of
have to
them.
destroy more
and
than your
maybe
one.
it's not going to be the right one.
Nah,
Maybe your best option isn't to make the biggest Death Star you can. I
Right.
mean, it's not like that's hiding anything.
They
Like,
can't make.
check out what we built. We'll see your little gun down there. We built a planet with a gun that shoots planets.
That sucks up the sun, which if we suck up the sun again, because we've already sucked up one sun, there's going to be no life because the sun is gone.
So we'll kill us all.
Like, how do they survive when they suck up the sun? Because obviously it's a planet, so it
We have
needs sun.
two suns.
Right. So that'd
Yeah.
be destroying 2 galaxies at once. They would drain the sun of one galaxy, destroys that, and then they'll go blast the other one.
Which they tried to do. They used the
They
first
did.
sun to blow up the
The first, like, 5 planets.
yeah, and then they
Yeah.
used this, and then they used the second sun. There's running out of suns.
Right? They're gonna fish them off right there, but they stopped.
It's gonna
it a
turn
little
into an
bit.
ice planet,
Stopped.
which would be great for the 5th movie if it wasn't blown up. They could have it all take place on
Exactly
one
what's
movie.
gonna happen too. So we're getting
Yeah, that's about-
a little closer. Anyone's final thoughts?
All around, I thought it was really good.
10.
I did get a little. The first time I saw the movie, I was a little bit like the kid in me was a little giddy. I was like, "Yee, another Star Wars
Yeah.
movie! Woohoo! Look at the scroll, it's going, it's telling us about what's gonna happen." So that was like really cool to see, and one of the main things I loved about it is that they still used a lot of like puppets and masks. And just
did.
dudes in suits.
They-
Like,
they
they did a
do.
really well mix
They
of the
used
CGI.
a lot of practical effects.
Yeah, and practical effects. Like, the mix of that was done so well. Like, even better, I thought, than in the prequels. Because I thought the prequels did a little too much CGI stuff, but this one was such a nice mix down the middle.
Yeah.
It was really nice. It blended really well, I thought.
They had a good, because they wanted to go, and even J.J. Abrams, who directed it, said that he wanted to do more practical. He didn't want to have to rely just on special effects.
Yeah.
Because watching, like, because I watched episodes 4, 5, and 6 recently, a couple weeks ago, just to kind of, before I watched this first time. And
me
it's
too.
the ones, like, the remastered, to where George Lucas added in some extra CGI here or there. And for the most
Yeah.
part, I don't agree with people that it sucks. Like, there's a couple scenes that it's too much, and I would agree. Like, the first time they showed Jabba in episode 4, when he wasn't in the original, just to show him, and then in episode 6, when they have, like, the whole dance scene in Jabba's palace.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of added extra CGI. I thought that was too much, but I don't agree with most people that like everything was trash. Like there are some good aspects to adding CGI, to where
Yeah.
like in the 4th movie they wanted to make like the main part where they meet Han for the first time, where he gets them like in the originals it was a bare planet. But because they didn't have the technology to make it, because it's supposed to be a trading post, and yet there was like 7 people.
Yeah.
So I thought the CGI made good use of kind of making it more populated, and that's where I felt in this
Yeah.
movie they did a good job of making like the populated scenes more popular.
I
Like it felt like it was a busy, bustling, like Maz Kanat felt like it was a
yeah,
cantina
it felt
with
like
like
it was a very busy bar.
you could
when
tell
went
that
in
was the
there.
place to be because there was like
Yeah.
50 aliens there. And
Right.
that was a good use of CGI where most of them were. Is because like it makes it feel more, it makes it more filled, and it makes it seem like things are happening more than just we can't make
Yeah.
more than 7 puppets, so we're just gonna put these 7 puppets and call it like a busy city.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
CGI was a good use in that aspect, but most of it was puppets. Like BB-8 was actually they built the droid to use it. It wasn't just like a CGI
Right.
droid.
I think that's very cool that they actually built the BB-8.
Yeah.
And then I like that they went back to a lot of practical effects. I did feel the CGI stuff was done well, like where Maz Kanat's like bar and everything. Like it looked like it was very busy. It was great. I thought that was one of my favorite scenes actually.
Yeah.
Was seeing all of the aliens in the bar and
Yeah.
just like seeing all the different stuff, and they had a little band playing. Like
The new cantina.
it's where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
looked like that's where you want to go get a drink.
Where everybody knows your name.
Yeah, and it was because that was like the first scene we got in the movie that kind of showed like the world and like what the aliens looked
Yeah,
like.
it showed more of the Star Wars world rather than just the what I'm still calling New Tatooine,
Yeah, well,
or the other side of Tatooine, where you still saw some aliens there,
yeah,
like at the trading post and stuff. And the trading post looked like it was busy enough, like you had people lining up to turn stuff in for portions.
because that's how they only get their food.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only way to get food. Like that, I felt like the CGI was done better in this than most movies prior to this. That
With
we
CGI,
watched
yeah.
CGI. I like the practical effects. I like the fact they have, like, they don't try to make some of the stuff that should always stick to practical into, like, CGI
Yeah.
stuff. Like, had you ever taken the time to make Chewbacca CGI? Like, it would
Oh.
be god awful.
I am so
it would
glad
be
they
the
haven't
worst thing
done
they
that.
could have done.
They still use
Right.
the same actor from
Like,
the
So
original.
it's nice
they
they
brought him
have
back.
the same
Yeah.
actor playing Chewbacca. They have the same actor. Like, they have a lot of the same actors from the old movies, which is nice to see. And you get to meet all the new people.
Porkins was there. I was very happy.
Porkins. I felt that same way I saw that guy flying. I was like, oh, yeah, Porkins.
That guy. You still had Admiral Akbar, although he didn't really have any
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah, I didn't have any
That's
lines,
really
but he
cool.
was still
He
there.
had one,
so
like,
you saw
one
a
or
lot of
two
old
maybe.
people.
You had the fish
Short
guy who was a
ones.
pilot. Like,
Yeah, you saw a lot of the people coming back for this. And I felt like it did gap the movies pretty well.
yeah.
But
Because about 30 years have passed since 6 and 7, because they kind of make a
Yeah.
point. Because, like, when you see Luke at the end, he's got, like, a gray beard and he's got gray hair. Like, he's definitely...
he looks old as
Yeah.
can be.
He looks like he's about to die.
Yeah, he is. Mark Hamill does not look in good shape at this point.
Well, he's-
I thought it looked good for a hermit. He's basically like hermiting
Yeah. I
up
guess
on that
that's
island.
true.
he's been alone
Just like,
for...
He's been by himself forever.
I wonder.
New
I
Yoda.
kind of hoped that. Well, not really hoped because it would actually be, just biting something from the first movie. But that would be kind of funny if they made it like Yoda was in Empire. Like, just kind of so recluse for so long, he kind of goes a little crazy, and just
Yeah,
all
he's
snap
a
happy,
little-
throwing,
I've
going
seen
through his
pictures
bag.
of-
I've seen pictures online where they have, like, Luke on Rey's back training her, like Yoda did to him.
Yeah, that would be kind of terrible.
Like, making it too campy. Because that was my problem
Yeah.
with
You
episode
can't go
6,
that
was too
route.
campy.
Yeah.
Part of episode 6, like, part of the reason I like that one is I was a kid at that time, and that was...
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
to me, Ewoks were cool. Like, as
I
a
love the
kid,
Ewoks.
the Ewoks were awesome.
So Teddy Ruxpin.
That's fine.
I don't know what
when
came
I
out
was
first.
a kid,
I don't know what came out first, but
when I was a kid, they were awesome.
what are your
I just wanted to be an
what are your
Ewok.
final thoughts, Ben?
My final thoughts on this movie?
Yeah,
It's obviously not my favorite Star Wars movie.
Ben hates it.
I don't hate it. I minorly hate it,
That's pretty good.
which
for
is
them.
like better than most hate.
Yeah,
So it's like it has its downsides. It does have a couple upsides. Like I said, my favorite scenes in this movie are the cantina when they're in Mos Espa and you get to see all the aliens, and when the First Order kills the city in the first 10 minutes of the film.
yeah.
Like, which also might chalk into me being heartless. Seeing as my favorite
Yeah.
scene is
Ben doesn't care
the
when
whole
Han Solo.
city getting murdered. I didn't care at all when Han Solo died.
He enjoys. See, if Han Solo would have died like 12 times, then Ben would have cared because
I might have cared.
he enjoys lots of death, but not.
If they would have killed like Solo and Chewbacca,
Yeah.
just like everybody but
just
Ray.
and Luke, yeah, just everyone but Ray could have died.
Luke will probably die in the next
Then
movie.
maybe it'd been like, oh.
Oh, but like, that's partially sad.
Yeah. Now going back to Chewbacca, like, because basically his whole thing was like he was bound to Han for life because that's what they set up. Now that Han's dead,
Yeah.
do you think Chewbacca sticks around or do you think he kind of goes off on his own?
It looked like
wonder.
he was excited to like co-pilot for Ray at the end when they get in the Falcon and they fly off.
But if Ray's gonna be with
she
Luke,
sits down and they get in, like I feel like he'll go train, but I feel like Chewbacca will stick with Finn and Poe to an extent. Because I just feel like he's going to be lost at this point without
Yeah.
Solo because he's been with Solo for so
So
long. Like,
yeah.
where's he going to go?
and that's what his contract
So-
was basically.
that was his contract,
He was with
so-
Solo for life, and
So
now
I just see him kind of staying at this point with Finn and Poe while they just move on from this point while Rey's training before she comes back and he co-pilots for her as well.
he just stays out there with R2 while Ray trains. Because it was only Ray, Chewbacca, and R2 that came on the Millennium Falcon to find Luke.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah,
can't pilot
so-
that himself, so he's stuck there until
just-
she wants to leave.
Right. I was wondering if he was just gonna take it back home or something, hang out with
Have
everybody
R2
else and-
co-pilot.
Yeah.
But that was kind of weird about the ending of the movie. It's like, and that makes me wonder: are they gonna have to where certain people knew that she was Luke's daughter? Or did they just skip over that at the end? It's like, they destroy the Death Star 3000,
Yeah.
and they fucking get back. Everybody celebrates their 2 seconds of sad clips for
We're sorry
dead.
Han died, but we blew up the Death Star again.
Right, and just but besides that, and they skip over that pretty well. But yeah, then all of a sudden they find where Luke is, and this whole resistance and organization that's been looking for him is just like, oh, it's cool, the new girl can
that was another thing that was kind of like...
I feel like that was Leia knowing that it's probably his kid. Like, I feel like Leia has... Because it would make her Leia's niece.
Yeah, I think Luke
So I feel
would
like
kind
Leia
of would have told Leia...
She was like, you gotta go alone for this.
Because we see kind of at the end, like I said earlier, like when after Han dies and they get back after they blow up the Death Star again, the Death Planet, Leia and Rey kind of have like a hug, and this was the first time they've on screen ever seen each other. And it didn't feel like thanks to my husband died saving you hug. It was basically like an embrace hug you would give a family member. So I think Leia knows that Rey is...
She would have to, and
she knows why
she got sent by herself.
And also, and another interesting thing is like,
Luke.
the only time we see R2 is he's stuck in like power off mode, C-3PO says, ever since Luke left. Like when Luke abandoned them to go off on his own, R2 kind of powered down. Well, we see R2 power up at the end, and that coincided with Rey stepping on the planet for the first time.
That's true.
Yeah, like she steps off the ship, and then the next scene after she's hugging Leia is R2 powering up.
Yeah.
So I think because she's a Skywalker, that he recognized something.
R2 wakes back up.
Is because maybe he programmed it to be like, if I come back or if my daughter comes, you get in contact with them, then you can power up again, and then you can, because now that he's got a Skywalker.
Right.
It makes sense.
But final thoughts for me would be, I really loved it. Like I said, I had my criticisms with Finn being a little too comical most of the time. Kylo Ren being like a completely different person when he took off the mask. No one caring when Han died. But overall, I really did like it. I really, really enjoyed it. I've seen it 3 times, so it was kind of... The third was a little tough because I'm like...
Yeah, because you know everything that's going to happen.
And it's not like, hey, wait till you see this, wait till you see this. Because I can't be like, wait till Han dies. What's everyone's reaction? Like, I can't... So it's kind of, but overall, I don't regret seeing it 3 times. It's good to be kind of like, the second time was really enjoyable, because the first time you're going in, you're waiting to be like, all right, it's Star Wars, like Mike said, you're happy. The second
first time I went excited to see new Star Wars. I went the Friday morning it came out at 9 a.m. Yeah. So I was excited, and I felt less excited by the end of it.
Ben hates it.
Right.
But like
that's true.
But the second time you go, you can analyze it more because you know what's coming. But you kind of you might have missed something the first time. You might have been like, let me see this again, so I can kind of get.
Yeah, I started looking for little stuff as I watched it the second time because I kind of knew where the story was going. So I started looking for other stuff.
You pay more attention to the background. And,
like the backgrounds,
you follow the characters.
Everything in the characters a little closer. So my final thought was I don't hate it beyond belief. I barely hate it.
Yeah.
So
it's no TMNT for bandits.
Yeah. That's pure hatred with that one. That was hard to watch.
Before episode 8 comes out, are you gonna watch it again? Like, would that be a criticism of?
Might watch it again before 8 comes out, like on DVD, and just give it a quick run through before 8 comes out, just to see 8. So final thoughts, Mike.
I liked it all around. I'm excited to see where it goes in the next films. I hope the direction goes a little bit different. I kind of liked and disliked how similar this episode 7 was to, 4 and everything. So hopefully they'll distance it a little, maybe get some more planets in there. Who knows? But I liked it all around. I'm excited. Excited for this trilogy.
Because they are bringing a different director for 8 and 9, because J.J. Abrams directed this one, but he's not going to direct the next 2. But I think what I read is the new guy that's doing it, J.J. Abrams kind of sat with him and they discussed where Abrams was leading to go. It's ultimately I can't remember the new guy's name, but it's his decision on what to do. But Abrams kind of laid out where he was going, where he wants to go. And then I think he's still going to be involved a little bit, but he's not going to be the director anymore. He's just going to have some input on.
So with all this new stuff, though, does Lucas have any say at all anymore?
No.
I don't think he has
I heard
any
he
say.
doesn't.
So he has zero say in what goes on in
I don't.
basically what he created and made a legend.
Well, because they
Yeah.
said in
Even
the
though
beginning,
he's gone kind of batshit crazy based on the prequels.
which weren't that bad.
They're not.
But
They're
well,
pretty bad.
but basically, Lucas doesn't have any say in what happens because he sold the
'Cause he
rights
sold
to
all
Disney.
the rights to
But they still give him credit, like they still have the Lucasfilm logo in the beginning. They
Yeah.
still
Okay.
said characters by George Lucas,
Okay,
But-
so it's still credited to Lucas.
Yeah.
It's just not Lucas's.
which I don't
stuff
think he
anymore.
cares that much
Yeah,
because
he's just
he
not
sold it
writing
for
it.
Yeah,
a ton of
he
money.
Sold it for
Right.
And also, the person who has the second
planet.
most, who owns the second most shares in Disney, is George Lucas.
Oh, okay.
So he basically sold it
So
to a
he sold
company
it to himself.
that he's invested.
Right.
He's like, I sold my own franchise to myself.
Yeah, and he got a ton of money, and so he still gets a bunch of money regardless
Gotcha.
of how
Okay.
well it does. He just
Yeah.
doesn't. He can't. I don't think he can say like, "Hey, I want you to do this," because basically
Yeah,
these
so
characters
these
are not
all
his.
new
Like they're the new
characters.
characters. And I'm sure because like I know Harrison Ford was tired of playing Han Solo,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember reading that he didn't really want to do it anymore, and
so he took a crap load of money in this one and wanted to be killed
and
off.
they
So
offed him.
Right.
he wanted it.
Maybe that's the only reason they did kill him off. They're like,
Well, I feel
well,
like that's
he's only
why
gonna do
they
this
did.
one.
He was ready.
But I just feel like they rushed it. Well, they just rushed his death
They were-
because it felt like
Yeah.
there was barely time to care that he died.
Yeah,
he's not gonna appear
at
to-
least like the death of Gandalf. You know, everybody sat outside for a minute with the sad music going, like
Before he
we
comes
can't
back.
carry on. And
Yeah,
Before he comes
the
back.
most we
this
got
was
in
it.
this one was us. Here's Chewbacca looking
got
down, kind of sad
Chewbacca
right now.
going crazy for a little bit, like
killing
in
6
anger.
stormtroopers, and then he's good.
Yeah,
Now, where would you rank this Star Wars in like the Star Wars universe type of thing
In
of all the
all of
movies?
them,
Like where would you
I
like how would you
ranked
rank the
it-
movies?
how I would rank the movies because I did because I wrote them all down
Yeah.
just in case. So my first favorite is The Empire Strikes Back because I feel like that's just the funnest all around best one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I feel like it has the best action scenes. I feel like it's just done very very well. It took what everything was good about New Hope and just improved
Yeah.
from there. And that's the first time we saw anything with like Luke where he has to come into realization that he essentially needs to kill his father.
Yeah.
And that we've pretty much never seen in a movie prior to that.
Yeah. Back in that was
So-
probably a big like
So
oh
that's
my
a
god.
big like yeah, especially back in that time.
Like that was probably one of the first big movie
So-
spoilers of movies like
So that's my
right.
first favorite one, and then Return of the Jedi, just because that holds a special part. Because that's the first one I ever saw as a kid. Like that's my first Star Wars experience is Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
Because I never saw anything before that, and to me, Ewoks were cool. Like maybe if they're campy now, but like when I was
Yeah.
a kid, they were amazing. I wanted to live in the Ewok village.
right.
Yeah.
I still love the
What
Ewoks.
kid doesn't want to live on Endor?
yeah. They probably
So,
kill you because you're not a
There's
Ewok.
that one.
They
Or
just fight
gold.
up and
They made
eat you like they were
C-3PO
gonna do in the
die.
Because he
first
was
place.
gold and shiny.
right?
So I was
And
like,
they
so
were
that
gonna eat
one-
them all at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then A New Hope. Because so the top three are obviously the original
Originals.
ones, and then I
Right.
put The Force Awakens fourth because
Okay.
I do like it more than the prequels because I think most of the prequels are really bad.
Okay.
Then when we get to prequels, I feel like Attack of the Clones was the best of the prequels, and then The Phantom Menace because I feel like if you actually just take Jar Jar Binks out of that movie, I don't think it's that bad of a movie that everyone makes out to be.
Yeah.
I think it was more of a disappointment factor of people going in with such high hopes.
yeah.
That they saw this with such high hopes
Yeah.
that this became really disappointing.
Yeah.
Like just watching it as a movie, and yeah, Jar Jar Binks is annoying as all can be. Actually, that whole Naboo race. But I think if you pull that out of that movie,
Yeah.
I think you probably have a decent film.
Okay.
Like not a great film, but at least a better film.
Okay.
And then The Revenge of the Sith to me was my least favorite. Because it's where they really tried to, in a way, humanize Anakin becoming Darth Vader. But I feel like the route they went made it very petty whiny. The same
Yeah.
issue I have with Kylo Ren.
right.
Like it feels very petty whiny become a bad guy. Like, I don't want to be a good guy because I don't want to be a good guy. And because
Right.
you bad guys are so much cooler and I'm sad about everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's why I just
Alright.
didn't like Revenge.
Alright.
Alright.
What about you, Mike?
If I had to order them, God, that's such a hard one. Because, I don't know, there's a lot of them I like equally, too, in certain ways. But I'll just say, as far as The Force Awakens goes, I probably liked it about as much as I liked the original trilogies. I thought it was a really well done continuation of that story that, we grew up with and everything. And, so I don't know, I guess if I had to order them, I would almost do the same order as Ben. Like, Empire is my favorite just because Yoda is awesome, and that's when he's all crazy and just going through, whacking him with the stick and eating all his candy bars and just being all crazy and showing him the ways. And,
Yoda was a little asshole.
right? He's just gone crazy. He's been in that, like, hollowed out tree for so long. And then, and yeah, I guess my least two favorite were episodes 1 and 3, I guess, even though 3 had some awesome battles. I love the Yoda battles in 3.
Yeah.
And 2 also. Like, that was when Yoda and Count Dooku, that was a pretty sweet battle. You gotta see Yoda flipping around all crazy.
That might have been the one with Grievous, too, with, like, the forearms and the lightsaber.
Yeah.
I think that was 2. That might have been 3, but I can't
that one
remember.
was 3, yeah.
Was that
Because
three?
That's when he fought him,
Oh, see, that makes it better.
In 2, he just smoked a lot.
Well.
He smokes as much as Batman does.
Yeah, well, for me, I'd probably go, like, for ranking them, like, 5 is probably the best. I think everyone can agree that... I think everyone agree, Empire Strikes Back is probably the best one.
Right.
And then I'd have to put 4 would be second. The main problem I had with 4 is, like, Luke is such a whiny bitch. Like, the whole first... He got better than Empire and Jedi.
Yeah.
But the whole first movie of, like, the original with Luke is just, like, he's so whiny. And apparently he doesn't care that his aunt and uncle who raised them died. But when Obi-Wan gets killed by, like, a slash, he's all of a sudden broken up beyond belief. Like, he's like, all he wants to do is leave Tatooine. That's all he wants to do. And then his aunt and uncle die, and then he's like, well, I guess I can leave Tatooine now.
Right, he's kind of sad about it. He's like, damn.
The only thing keeping him there was his aunt and uncle. It was kind of like when Han died, when no one cares. I felt like Luke didn't even care that.
Yeah.
And then Obi-Wan dies towards the end of the first one, or towards the end of A New Hope, and then he gets so broken up. He's like, the guy that he just met, like, 2 days ago dies, and he just... Space Wizard.
Right.
And he all of a sudden, like, now he's broken up beyond belief. Like, that was my only really problem with 4, but I'd rank 4 second. I'd rank A New Hope third. Or not A New Hope. Force Awakens third. Like, I really liked this one. And then fourth, I would have to go with Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Just because it was.
Wow.
I love the battles. I love, like, Anakin's whiny. I know he's whiny. I know he's like, Padme's dying and I'm going to try to save her. But I just like the overall story of, like, how he got influenced to be Darth Vader. Like, basically the Chancellor Palpatine, who ends up being the Emperor. Because the Chancellor is, like, the main bad guy in the prequels, that he turns into the Emperor, but he's, like, manipulating Anakin to come to the dark side, because, like, Anakin's whole thing in the third movie is trying to save Padme, and then the Chancellor gives him a way to do it, basically saying, like, come to the dark side. Like, Darth Plagueis defeated death. He knows how to do it. Come to the dark side, and I can teach you.
Yeah.
So kind of, I like the manipulation of that. The battles were cool. Like the Yoda Grievous battle in 3, like Anakin and Obi-Wan on the volcano. I thought that was really cool back when I saw it. So I would rank the Revenge of the Sith actually fourth, and then I would go Return of the Jedi, basically just because of some nostalgia to it, and then it is a good movie. It's a little too kiddie, basically, how 2-foot-tall Ewoks can defeat the Empire's best stormtroopers on Endor.
They're not the best stormtroopers.
They're the best they have left.
They're crafty.
They're
crafty little
They
bears.
send the best they have left to Endor, and then they're being defeated by, like, childish Home Alone tricks. Like, they run into wires.
They
and
do Home Alone him.
That's how
before
I would do
they
it.
Home Alone him before Home Alone. So it was a little bit too, like, the racing part where they're on, like, the speed bikes and they're racing through the forest was cool back then. Watching it again is a little campy. Like, it's kind of like, wow, this isn't that great. It's just a little bit too campy for me, but it's still better than the prequels outside of 3. And then I'd probably go Phantom Menace 1 is right behind Revenge of the Sith, because pod racing was really cool.
Pod racing was cool.
Like the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan battle versus Darth Maul was cool. Darth Maul's the best
That is
villain in the entire series.
That, in my opinion, is the best lightsaber fight
Yeah.
in Star Wars.
Because Darth Maul
Yeah.
is so awesome, and then he's just killed at the end, and that's all. Nobody uses a double lightsaber anymore, which is a shame because that's a cool weapon. It's like a bow staff, but double-sided, twin
Right.
blade kind of thing. And then probably Attack of the Clones, just because it was kind of there to drive between 1 and 3. But I don't hate the prequels as much as most people because I never grew up originally with Star Wars. Like, it wasn't something that my dad was like, oh my God, you gotta watch this, you're not leaving this room until you watch it.
Yeah.
Like, he was never, because he's a little bit older generation than that, so he was never really into it as much. So I never really got, like, into it as much. So, like, when the prequels came out, it wasn't so much of a betrayal as I was 11 and this is cool.
Yeah.
So that's kind of stuck with me more than the original trilogy because I saw the originals before the prequels and I was younger, so I was kind of like, all right, these are cool. And then the prequels with the fancy lightsaber battles and like the cool aspect, like the Force lightning was awesome from the Emperor. Samuel L. Jackson was cool. I recognized that when I was younger too. It's like Mace Windu was the only black guy in the universe.
Yeah.
And they made him badass with a purple lightsaber. So, but I don't hate Jar Jar Binks as much. Like, I agree, he's too much comedy. I hated C-3PO in the originals too because C-3PO in 4, 5, and 6 was just comedy. Like, his whole thing was to be like the comic foil for like he gets in the way or he's like, he's just the funny guy. And Jar Jar Binks was like that. He was just too over the top.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate him as much. I don't let that ruin the movie for me like some people.
Me.
Yeah, well, I wasn't everything bad in general. I was just saying that most people can't get
lot of
past
people.
Jar Jar
There was
Binks.
a lot of people. Like I say, if you
I
pull
know.
him out, that movie is not as bad as people make it out to be.
And you leave him in, and it's. I mean, he's just.
Pretty bad.
He's all right. He's not great, but he's not like the worst. To me, I know to some people he is because they felt like it was a betrayal of like their childhood of like Jar Jar Binks just shit all over Star Wars, and to me, it wasn't like that.
He took a big fat deuce
Yeah.
all over Star Wars.
It was cool seeing the droids and like
No.
the battle droids and how
Battle
they.
droids are dumb.
I like the battle droids. Those things were cool.
Those like blue balls of goop that they would fling at them, and those rolling droids in the first one that had like the
Rolling droids
double
were kinda
guns.
Cool. I liked those things.
There's a lot of good stuff.
I said there was a lot of good. I said you just need to take Jar Jar and that whole race out.
I'm convincing the world,
Which
Ben.
they did for episode 2. They pulled him out.
Well,
Jar
no,
Jar
he
has
was
one.
in-
He has like one scene and
I
he
know.
doesn't say anything.
He was in 2 and 3 as
Yeah,
basically
flashed
like
by him.
a background character because they couldn't have him talk because they knew people would hate it. So they they still had to put him in because he was still his race was still part of the universe.
Yeah.
And they made him like a leader in the council.
This is, I think, stuff for another day.
We'll get into it another day.
We're gonna run long.
All right.
Yeah,
So-
we'll probably have another episode about the
We could probably
Each pre-
yeah,
or each
we'll probably
trilogy.
do each
Yeah.
trilogy on another episode. For now, Force Awakens. It was a Star Wars movie.
Great movie.
It
I'll
definitely
go with
was.
that.
I liked it.
All right.
All right.
Thank you all for listening. This has been Loved It, Hated It.
We'll see you next week.
And you'll hear us.